Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. We have a pleasure to present the last seminar for this series. Dr. Vincent Asiago from HM Claus. He is the Director of R&D Portfolio Innovation and Intellectual Property at HM Claus. He holds several positions at Corteva, DuPont before joining HM Claus, and he has a PhD in chemistry from Purdue University, and he also has an MBA from Iowa State University. Vincent, it is a great pleasure to have you with us to close this series of seminars. I'm going to stop sharing here. I want to remind the audience that we post questions in the chat or in the Q&A. And Vincent, I'm going to start sharing. You can share your, you can unmute and share your screen.
All right, can you see my desktop?
Yes, you can put in presentation mode and we're set to go.
Excellent, thank you so much, Carlos. And one thing I always don't take for granted is technology. I think a few minutes ago, we were trying to figure out where is the link and where do you go? And, some other things, COVID has allowed us to be able to adjust really to some of these challenges, but really pleasure to be speaking to this audience here. And again, thank you, Carlos, and your team there for the invitation. So what I've prepared this morning, first I'll just share a little bit about myself. Carlos, thank you. And I'd like to maybe share a few other things about myself, and then I'll talk about, kind of introduce the Limagran and HM Claus, and then spend quite some time on the strategic portfolio management and also how we are fostering the culture of innovation here at HM Claus. So that's what I have prepared for you this morning. So with that, I would like to start with something that is really near and dear to my heart, which is my family, right? These are the folks that keeps me going. We have two kids, 3 and 6. Our son, Noah, is 6. He's very curious. He's always asking a lot of questions, and it really keeps me on my toes, and our daughter, the same thing. So again, this is what keeps me going at the family, and especially this time when, we are working from home. So at least I want to encourage all of you, please take time to spend time with your loved one, your family, and friends is very important, not only for you, but also for your well-being. And as Carlos mentioned, one thing I would like to talk about here is really the dimension. So Carlos mentioned that I've held several positions, and again, my background is technical. Spent some time in R&D, but also went to get a business degree. And really, one thing I've come to really appreciate is the intersection between the business and the technical side, which is the place I am today. Really trying to understand what is the business asking, and then turning on the other side to talk to R&D to really understand, is this something that we can be able to deliver? And so, what is the quickest way that we can be able to deliver? So for the students who are here, I would like to encourage you, as you think about your career, be open, right? Allow yourself to be disrupted by, the opportunities that come ahead of you. As I said, I started from a technical side, but now really at the intersection of business and R&D. And having said that, that also is true with my personal journey, right? I started thousands and thousands of miles away in Kenya, then came to US, lived in Delaware, then I moved to Indiana, then I moved to Iowa, and now I'm living in California. And well, it's really a progression going west. And for those who are really nerd here, or really put their scientist mindset, you can even try to calculate what is the R squared. I think you almost see the straight line going west. Having said that, I think in some time, life is not like that, right? And the same thing with research. Research is not always a straight line, which is what I'm going to show you today throughout my talk. So a little bit about our parent company, Limagran. So Limagran is a cooperative that is owned by French farmers. So this is a French company owned by French farmers, which is very different from many companies that you see in the US, because this is a co-op model. But the core of Limagran is really the farmers, right? That's really the core of everything that Limagran does, really trying to ensure that agricultural production system is improved, and also to ensure that you are doing that in a sustainable way. And again, not only thinking for French farmers, but really thinking of farmers all over the world. And that's why, if you see in the subsequent slide, Limagran is an international company. So again, the fourth largest seed company in the world, but number one seed company in the vegetable seeds, but the fifth largest seed company in the field seed. And one thing that I'm really proud of, Limagran is the only company today that is non-chemical pure play seed company. So if you take an example maybe of Corteva, you have the seed component, but you also have the crop component, protection component. And that's what you see also with other major players in the industry here. But Limagran is really a pure play seed company. And the way the Limagran seed business is organized, so it's really by division. So we have the Limagran vegetable seed, which is made up of the 3 BU, HM Close, Hazera, and Vimorin. And I am in the HM Close business unit. But again, part of the Limagran vegetable seed, we have the field seed component, which are 6 business units. We also have the gardening and product division, which has 1 business unit. But also you have the baking and the bakery. But I focused here primarily on the seed business. So you can see it's really quite an integrated company, not only on the vegetable side, but also on the field seed side. And as I mentioned, we are the number 1 vegetable seed company worldwide. And that's something that we are proud of. With last year and the 2019-2020 fiscal year delivering over 700 million euros of revenue. Again, that is really the solid market position that we have, and also the innovative products that we deliver every year to our customers. And having said that, I would like now to quickly talk about HM Close. So HM Close, as a business unit of Limagran, has about over 3,000 employees worldwide. And we are located all over the globe, with the headquarters, head offices in France, in Valence, also here where I'm sitting in Davis, but also a regional office in Bangkok. In addition to that, we have other offices, for example, in Florida. We have other research station in Wisconsin. And then if you go the other part of the world, we have the operation in India. We have operation in Italy, Spain, Jordan. So really, I want to say, you can see even the distribution of where the employees are really talks about how we are balanced as an organization. But the other thing I'd like to mention here is, if you look at how much we are investing in R&D, so as a company, we're investing about 18% of our sales in R&D, and that's really been consistent throughout the years. And our mission as a company is to build trusted farmers throughout the world. We want to support them, and we want to make sure that we are doing that sustainably to improve the quality and taste of their production. That is our mission. And that is also tied very closely with our vision as a company, right? One thing that we strive to do as a company is we want to be the company of choice, not only for our customers, but also for our employees and the communities where we operate. That is the foundation in everything that we do. We want to make sure that we earn the trust from our customers. We also want to make sure we're earning the trust of our employees and the communities where we operate. And that is really tied to our identity, right? We have the vision of a global reach. We want to be a global company, but at the same time, we want to understand the local communities and be able to provide varieties that are really suited for that particular environment. And our expertise and innovation is really something that we strive to be in the leading edge of science. And that really ties very closely with the mission of R&D, right? So as an R&D organization, our mission is to create innovative market-leading vegetable varieties for the global farmers. And how are we going to do that? One thing that we believe as an R&D organization is really we cannot do that ourselves. We want to do that through collaboration. We want to do that through teamwork and be able then to do that also with industry-leading science and technology. And that is really the core of R&D. It's our scientists, are our breeders who are every day thinking about what is the next variety they want to deliver to the market. And this is the R&D leadership team. Here you can see again, it's split between here in the US, but also in Europe. And again, it's a very dedicated team, which is managing the global R&D operations. And as an R&D organization, our primary objective here is really core to everything that we do is our growers, is our customers. And our customers are asking for better quality and flavors. They're asking for varieties that are better in disease resistance. Our customers are asking for higher yield, but at the same time, efficiency in harvesting. So if you think about the growers, labor is becoming a challenge. So at least want to make sure that we are delivering variety that are, machine harvestable in some species. And then when you think about processing, all those things are core in everything that we do in R&D. Okay. So when you look here in the time of the challenges facing agriculture today, right? So the first graph you see the evolution of world population expected to hit over 10 billion in 2050. And having said that, on the right, you see the available land, the arable land is reducing year by year. So that is really causing a big challenge for agriculture, not only today, but this is going to be a big problem going forward because the population is increasing, but the available land for cultivation is decreasing. So what we have to do then as a company is we have to think about producing more with less land that is available. That's really the biggest challenge that is facing agriculture today. But also when you look at the industry specific, there are some other challenges that we face as an industry. One starting with the climate change. So we see the pressure today, the temperatures are increasing. We see drought and we also see other changes in the environment. And that is having a direct impact on our farmers, and then also making us as an organization think about the varieties. Are they adapted to heat stress? Are they adapted to less water? So being able to use water efficiently. So those are some of the factors that we have to consider. In addition to that, we have to think about the regulatory complexity. So we have some regulations that are, as we operate in different countries, that we have to adhere to, and some of them are actually changing quite fast. So we have to constantly be ahead and understand what are those regulations and make sure that we are following them. And for those who have been following the news, it's also emerging pathogen. So that is also becoming a threat to our industry. It affects the seed movement, how we move seed from one country to another. So if you think about the tomato brown rugose fruit virus, that's the example you see here, that's becoming a challenge. But as an industry, we have to quickly think about how do we adapt with the seed movement challenges so that we ensure that our growers, our customers are able to get the seed at the time when they need it. But at the same time, if you look at the opportunities that we as an industry have, today is really about the consumer trades. The consumer are demanding better fruit quality. They are demanding better flavor. And that really become central to what we do. And then when you think about new technology, I'm sure this is not new. You have seen the talk about genome editing. Genome editing offers a lot of promise in terms of being able to accelerate how we do our research. But at the same time, you have to think about the social license, right? How is it going to be accepted in terms of the customers? So that becomes something that we have to really consider and also help us to determine how we adopt or not adopt technology. technology. But at the same time, we have the digital, right? So today we have the precision agriculture. We also have the machine learning, all those technologies. So how are we adapting and using those technology to really deliver market leading and innovative variety? So again, you see here with challenges, but also we also look at them as opportunity, and we try to capitalize on that as well. So having said that, so in the few slides that I've shared with you, you see kind of the complexity that we face as an industry, right? Starting with all the challenges that overall agriculture is facing. So what that means is, as an organization, we have to think about how we're investing. So we have to make sure that our R&D investment is aligned with the business priorities, is aligned with where the business would like to go. That becomes the number one thing that we have to do. Two, we also have to balance the short-term and the long-term investment opportunity. So how do you ensure you are delivering today, but also you don't do that at the expense of not investing for the future? As you think about the third horizon, are you thinking about the third horizon, and are you investing accordingly? And the other thing is really, how do we ensure that we focus resources on the best growth opportunity? You know, anybody in research, there's always endless of opportunities. There's always endless of research hypothesis that you can pursue, but ultimately at the end of the day, you have to think about where is the best growth opportunity so that you're investing there accordingly. And the approach that we have adopted is really thinking about how do we make a decision? And it really comes down to choices. And I'll encourage you, if you haven't read this book by Lovely, it's really the foundation of how we think on a day-to-day. Playing to Win is the book. And it's really about choices. And it's not by defining our aspiration. What you're going to see in the subsequent slide is really kind of the approach we have taken in defining the choices to be able to ensure that we are aligning our R&D investment with the business priority. And it really starts by the aspiration. What is our overall aspiration? And then thinking about where do we want to play? And once we have done that, it's really to identify how are we going to win. And it really starts by first defining very clear value proposition for the customer, and then identify the competitive advantage that is then going to allow us to be able to achieve our aspiration. And at the same time, you have to take care and make sure that you have the capability in place to allow you to deliver. You have the management system that are required in order to deliver on your aspiration. So overall, this is the way we think about it now. And I'll walk you through kind of how we've approached this at HM Plus. So our aspiration is really to maintain the #1 position as the leading vegetable seed company worldwide. That is our aspiration. And we also want to make sure that we are maintaining the market and leading position in key crops. So again, when you think about we want to be the #1 vegetable seed in the world, it sounds easy, but of course it's not, because the competition always thinking about what is they're also investing a lot of money, more than we do. So that becomes key in everything that we do. But that's not all. We have to also think about how do we become the company of choice. And the company of choice, as I mentioned in our vision, is not only for our customers, but also for our employees, because anytime, you cannot focus on one and leave the other. We constantly have to think about the two dimensions, which is our customers, our employees, and ultimately too, the communities where we operate. And then where we play, this is really an intersection of really thinking of the country and then the species. So as you saw on my previous slide, is we are a global company, but with the local touch. And that local touch comes by understanding what is the local community asking? What are their needs? And are we able then to deliver the variety suited for that particular environment? So where we play is a combination of the country and the species. That's really how we identify the areas to play. And that's really how, again, we go in order to prioritize. So once we have identified where to play, the question is, how then are we going to win? And our sort of key in thesis here is really around one, having a strong capacity for innovation. I cannot emphasize this enough. In fact, I'll talk more about innovation later on. That is the core of everything. We are a science company, and you cannot be a leading science company without innovation. So innovation becomes key to everything that we do, and that's really how we win in the marketplace. Second one is really having a diversified market approach. As you saw in the previous slide, is the market is so diverse. There are so many areas that we can go. So really trying to identify which markets have better growth opportunities, what are our customers asking, and are we able to deliver the best varieties for that particular market. So those two are really the foundation of how we win in the marketplace. And having said that, we cannot just win by having those two areas. We have to think about the capabilities we have in place. And that first starts with the way we are structured as an R&D organization, really being a global R&D organization from operation side. How is the operation team working? We have our breeders, and they're constantly thinking about, coding the next varieties. Also thinking about the support, which is providing the help to our breeders to ensure that they are able to select the best varieties to advance. Trade and technology, ensuring that we have the best disease packages to go along with our leading germplasm. And all that is really brought together by our team, which is the strategy and innovation, really ensuring that not only we are thinking about the future, but also we are ensuring that for the discoveries that we are making is protected through either patent or other means. But that is not enough. The way we operate then becomes very central, and that's really driven by our principle. We believe in transparency, accountability, collaboration, and teamwork. And you saw that also from the mission as an R&D organization, because we believe in the absence of these four areas, it's really hard to make progress. So this becomes the key in terms of how we operate. It really becomes part of our DNA in terms of how we operate as an organization. And having said that, we also have to consider the elements. So you can have the best strategy in the world. Without execution, you cannot really make any headwinds. So it really becomes important to also think about what elements do you need? And these are the things that we consider here at HM Close. It really starts with our people, ensuring that they have the best training, ensuring that they understand what the process we have in place. Again, when it comes to process, we want to make sure that for example, everyone understand what is the process, how is the prioritization done. We want to ensure that is transparent, but also we want to ensure that the process we have in place is agile, so that we can adapt as we see fit. But also you have to think about the governance, making sure that we have very clear decision-making process. We also have to make sure that it's clear who has decision rights. And finally, the infrastructure, making sure that we have the best IT tools to support all those activities. And again, in many cases, what we see, companies tend to focus on one and thinking that, well, if we focus on bring the IT tools, we'll solve all the problem. But what we have seen is you really have to take care of all these four elements. And the approach that we use to prioritize really is a multifaceted. You can see here is not just one thing that we look at, say, hey, let's look at our cells, and if the cells are good, then we are done. We can invest more money in that area. No, there's a number of things that we have to take into account. One, we have to understand what is our turnover, what is our margin. We also have to think about the market attractiveness. How is the market looking going forward? But also when we think about the pipeline, how is our pipeline? Do we have the right varieties? Do we have the right germplasm to be able to deliver product for that particular market? And then we also have to take into account the previous experience that we have had, and we've been very successful. That's why we have the number one vegetable seed in the world. But that is not enough. We also have to think about how the environment is changing and to be able to then to quickly adopt. So that is the approach that we take when we come to portfolio prioritization, which again is really key to be very clear in terms of how this is done, and we try to make it to all the team in R&D. And having said that, I want to finish with this, which is really strategic portfolio management is about choices, right? And when you think about choices, is how much do you want to invest in your core versus, you know, transformational or breakthrough ideas. And you cannot just say, well, I'm going to put all my energy in the core and miss out on the transformational side. So strategic portfolio management really comes down to choices. And as I described, and I walk you through sort of the rationale we use to align our R&D investment with the business priority, to also balance between the short term and the long term. Ultimately, what we see in strategic portfolio management is really about choices. And as you think about the challenges we face, you know, today in the market, and I showed you that at the beginning, we have to constantly think, what is the best way to ensure that we are investing in the best growth opportunities? So that is strategic portfolio management. I'm going to switch gears here and talk about innovation. And I'm going to talk about innovation in two dimensions. One is how we think about innovation when we interact with the external, right? How we think about external innovation. And then two, I'll finish with an example of internal innovation and how we bring innovative product to the marketplace. And so when you think about innovation, one is we have a strong belief, and you see that is really how we win at HM Close, is innovation. And the way we think about innovation for the external, we have the Life Science Innovation Center. So this is our mission of this innovation center, is to promote innovation and accelerate the translation of life science research to create meaningful real-world solutions. So that is the mission of the Innovation Center. And this Innovation Center is, again, open to anyone around the world. It's open to the different startups. So if you have an idea, this is a place where you transform those ideas into real world solution. And having said that, the mission then of the Innovation Center is to support and strengthen life science innovation ecosystem. We are doing that by fostering ideas, inspiring collaboration, but also supporting the entrepreneurs along the way. So that is really the core of how we think about our Life Science Innovation Center. I just want to share some few stats here. So since the Innovation Center was established in 2015, we have had a total of 26 startups go through our Innovation Center. 20 are still active today, and we currently have 4 startups at the Innovation Center. And over that period, we've been able to raise the startups over 20 million in funding. So that is phenomenal. And you think about, again, these are sometimes students who have an idea and they would like to get a place to test those ideas. And we open our doors to allow that to happen. So just a little bit more about the Innovation Center. So we have about 3,100 square feet of wet lab space. Again, we have shared equipment, meeting room, and office space. So for startups, they can really be able to utilize that, the wet lab. In addition to that, we have the lab equipment. So it allows scientists, if you have, for example, experiments you want to conduct, you have access to the lab equipment. So you can think about, for a startup, you know, where they are trying to really test their proof of concept, it's really almost impossible to get access to this equipment. So what we are doing is providing this startup an opportunity where they can be able to come and really transform the idea into real world solution. In addition to that, one other unique aspect of our Innovation Center is we have a greenhouse, and that greenhouse then allows, you know, if you have, for example, plants that you like to test and you need access to the greenhouse, We have about 1,800 square feet of control environment, which is available all year round for the startups to try to grow their plants and do different experiments. So again, that is a unique aspect of our innovation center. A lot of the places you see, they will probably have a wet lab, but not a greenhouse. So the combination that we have makes us really very unique here in California, and actually I want to say around US. So you can see a couple of startups that have gone through the Innovation Center. Some of them are doing really good. And that's just to show you an example of some of the partnerships we have, what the Innovation Center is doing today. So what I'll leave with you is, if you have ideas, please feel free to contact Sukhpreet. She's the innovation leader here at HM Close, and she'll be more than happy to help you. But we are all key here is we are looking for partnership. We are open. We would like to support your ideas. So again, that's really one way that we believe, and again, that is also tied to our principle, because we believe in collaboration, and that is how and why we have this innovation center. And now when you think about the impact of the Innovation Center, so there's quite a number of things that we can do with this Innovation Center. And today we can be able to even offer virtual tours for startups from all over the world. So again, I encourage you, if you have ideas, be bold, go out, try it. Again, in many cases, we try to have everything mapped out. But again, as a scientist, my background, I always try to think about what's the most important question I need to answer. And that's really what drives from just idea in the bench to ultimately being applied and using that to solve the real world challenges. And not to transition here with an example of an internal innovation. And this is Adora, one of our really product that we are proud of. So this tomato has a unique taste. And the way I describe this is a taste like you have never tasted before. That is Adora. And that's really to show you how we are thinking internally about innovation. So this tomato here is really a combination of bringing the breeders and product managers together and asking them and daring them to think outside the box. And how are they doing that? They're doing that by understanding what is the market asking for and being able then to work together to deliver a product that the market is asking. And that's exactly what Adora is. Adora is really bringing the thinking outside the box and bringing our best genetics and combining that with the environment to be able to deliver this product here, which is doing very well today. And we will see, again, there are many other examples like that. But again, when you think about the Adora story, so the creation, it's very unique in terms of it's a brand that is with a trademark. We have protection in the US and Mexico. But when I think about the Adora story, to me, it's really a good example of really understanding the customer. What are the customer asking for? And then going back through an iterative process to be able to deliver a product that is completely differentiated from other products on the marketplace. So if you look at this tomato, it's completely differentiated from anything else you'll see in the marketplace. And that's what when we think about transformational innovation, when you think about disruptive innovation, this is how we are able to deliver that. And having said that, we constantly think about other Adora stories, right? What are other products that we can do, like the same approach that we did with Adora? And that is really a combination of listening to our customers, thinking of outside the box, and being able to say, well, what is our customers asking for? And are we able to deliver on that particular product? And then the other thing, just to summarize, really, when we think about strategic portfolio management, it's about choices, right? Where are you going to invest? How much are you going to invest? And then, do you have the capability? What do you need to have in place to be able to be successful? That is about choices. But when we think about innovation, what we believe today at HM Close, innovation is no longer a choice. We must innovate every single day. we have to constantly think about what is the next innovative products that we have to deliver in the marketplace, because we have a strong belief that the way we win in the marketplace is to have differentiated product, and we bring differentiated product in the marketplace through innovation. That's why we believe that for strategic management, portfolio management is about choices. But when it comes to innovation, it's no longer a choice. It's something that we must do in order to maintain, one, the market leading position, but also to ensure that we are delivering products that the customers are actually asking and need. And having said that, I would like to finish by inviting all of you to check out this quite a number of opportunities at HM Close and Limagran in general, right? HM Close is just one business unit, but overall, within Limagran, we have a lot of opportunities, and that is from all the way from sales, marketing to R&D, where I'm sitting, and really is to encourage you. And as I said in the beginning, I shared my story. When you think about your career, in some cases, not always a straight line. I started in the technical side, ended up doing an MBA, but you also have to think constantly, how do you bring value? And that value might be in a different department that you actually anticipate. So my encouragement to you is always think outside the box and be willing to disrupt yourself. So I will encourage you to check out our website. We have quite a number of people who are from NC State. I know like Adam Cole is one of our breeder who is doing an international assignment. And that's really something that we are proud. When we look at our relationship with NC State, we have quite a number of licensing that we are doing with the professors there. So we value that relationship, and that's really how we believe that we are going to win in the marketplace, not by working alone, but through collaboration like the one we have with NCSU. And having said that, I want to thank you all for listening, and I'll turn it over to Carlos for questions.
Thank you so much, Vincent. Thank you. I think it's a great perspective, particularly for graduate students that are pondering which channels to pursue in their professional life. Having gone through the private sector, I must tell you, I was also scared when I was a graduate student about joining industry. And I think it's like in any type of job or position is what you make out of it. What should count is not just the environment, and it's been great journey also. We have already a question in the chat. I would like to remember the audience to post questions in the chat or in the Q&A. The first question from Thiago, it says, you mentioned about the importance of consumer preference in vegetable breeder. How do you make sure that information is feedback to the breeders?
That's an excellent question. So, the consumers are always demanding so many things, right? In some cases, I want to actually say that they don't know what they want, right? Mm-hmm. So one way we make sure that we are delivering product that the consumer asking is through multiple iterations, right? Not to go and say, hey, we're gonna just lock ourselves in the lab, develop hybrids and then deliver that to the growers, ultimately to the consumers, but also doing a multiple iteration, right? Doing a couple of times, going with simple varieties, inviting our consumers, inviting our growers to come and check out our products that we have. And that's something that we actually do through field days. That's where we are getting the feedback from the consumers, we are getting the feedback from growers. And that is the foundation of how we operate. So constant iteration is how we ensure that we are delivering something that the consumers will want.
Okay. Regarding the Adora tomato, Eric is asking here, it sounds great and unique. What are we see that the color is different, but what other attributes that differentiate Adora from other commercial varieties? And this is a question that I also had. Where can we find it?
So Adora, I think right now is big in Europe. That's where we did the first launch. Is coming to US. I will encourage you to check out Adora website. So I believe it's adora.com. You'll see where you can find it here in the US. But one thing about Adora is one, you see the unique color, right? But the other, what is to me, it's the foundation for Adora is the flavor. right? If you test other tomato, in many cases, they are just flat. But Adora, the investment thesis around it is you will test like you have never tested before, which is the flavor in the tomato itself. And that's one of the things that we capitalized when we were developing Adora.
Is that even after through the process that tomato goes through our industrial production that they keep the flavor? You know, I have the same variety in my garden, and I swear to God, it tastes 100 times better than the same variety I buy in the supermarket, and that's because of harvesting green and then making it mature in the store. The Adora maintains the flavor through that process too.
Yes, it does. And so the question there, Carlos, is when you think about a lot of the tomato, it's always a balance between the shelf life and the taste, right? So in many cases, what you're getting in the stores that's gone through, not only from the harvesting, so you can think about the time. So it's always a balance. How do you increase the shelf life without compromising your flavor? But that's a hard balance. That's why in many cases over time that flavor is gone. But one thing about Adora is able to maintain that flavor, and that was one of the things that we capitalized on when developing that variety.
Okay. Again, if you guys want to pose questions in the chat or in the Q&A, I have a couple of questions from your conversation, from this conversation. Vincent, when Tiago asked about consumer feedback, I fully understood what you said, but my question is, what if you guys, your breeders, are exposed to diversity of crops and diversity within crops that some people in some countries, and particularly here in the US, may not know what they're missing. They would not demand that because they don't know it exists. So how you incorporate that element of complete novelty for customers? And I wonder, the related question is, how much you allow your breeders to explore that kind of blue sky ideas in terms of types of vegetables or different species of vegetables that may become relevant?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So one thing which I think is an advantage for HM Plus is the global nature of the company, right? So if you take the example of melon, you'll have breeders not only in the US, but also in Europe and other places as well. And when we know, and I think a breeder understands that there's the component of G by E, right? So you might have the same variety here, but just because of the E, the environment, that is going to test, a little bit different. So what we try to do is, because we have research stations across the world. And one of the things that then the breeders are able to do is they're able to test those varieties in different environments and be able to see and understand what is the G by E interaction. And that also helped to be able to, by having those research stations around the globe, is really understanding. As I indicated at the beginning, we believe in the local reach, but the local touch. So the local touch is really where we get the consumer, where we get our customers understanding what do they need. And for those who have traveled, for example, melon here in the US, and then you go to Spain, we have a very different variety that is doing very well there, right? And it's because the consumer are asking for it, and they're also willing to pay for a premium to get that one that tastes very, very different. So those are some of the factors, Carlos, that we take into account. One, starting with our global nature, global reach. We have a station all over the world, but also taking into account the local, right? Understanding what are the local needs, and that's where the local touch comes into play.
Okay.
Yeah.
I received a couple of questions through WhatsApp, and this is not me asking the question. It's a tomato breeder friend of mine and former colleague at Iowa State from Colombia. Juan is asking, what procedures are you using to define flavor, which seems to be a very I won't say subjective, but do you use more scientific approaches, I imagine? to define?
Yeah, so it's an excellent question, and I don't have a good answer for you. I think this is really a mix because we don't have an industry standard. So we utilize the panels, but we also measuring other molecules in the fruit to understand, what are the molecular characteristic of that fruit. Having said that, right, so we try to test this, set up these fruit testing panels, right, and to help us to understand the flavor. But the challenge for that is really lack of an industry standard, right? How do you define it? And what we hope to do, especially with Adora and maybe other varieties that come in, is to define that industry standard. And it's not going to take place by HM Plus alone. So we work through a consortium to really try to define what that industry standard is going to be. It's just like today when you see organic put in a fruit that you're buying, there's sort of some minimum standards that growers have to attain. So today that has not been established. What I hope over time is we sort of have the industry standard established for that as well.
Juan also is asking about the status of gene editing as a regular breeding tool in different countries and its acceptance and approval, I guess.
Oh, that's a heavy question, right? So genome editing is an excellent tool, right? It's an excellent tool, allows you to edit really and be able to do a lot of things that others will not be able to do with the normal breeding technologies. But the challenge, and you mentioned this, is really the regulations around the world. So today, especially for here in America and some countries, SDN1 is basically considered conventional, right? But that's not true when you go to Europe, right, and you go to other countries. And as a global countries where we are moving seeds all over the place, we are selling in all these different countries, we have to think about this regulation. And that's why I put that as really, that's one of our challenges, right? So you might have a product, but you also have to think about the social acceptance, the regulatory aspect of it. So that might slow you down in terms of how you launch that product or how you introduce that product, because you want to make sure that there's very clarity in terms of regulatory aspect, which today for genome editing, it's not very clear. I want to say the social license is not there yet. We have seen the company in Japan that has, I want to say, launched the first genome edited tomato. They have started selling it. I think it's, I want to say it's even available here in the US, but don't quote me on that. But the question is, that's a small company, but for us as a global company, we are all over the place. The risk, we have to consider the risk, and here the risk is so high, and we have to take really sort of the baby step in order to get there. We can continue to research about the technology, but today we don't have anything on the market that is developed through genome editing.
Okay. Another question here in the chat. What is your vision in terms of breeding for nutritional value? Not just taste, but nutritional value in vegetables.
Yeah, that's actually excellent, because if you think about today and look back for many years, it has really been about grower traits, about the shelf life, about the fruit set. You sort of do that while sacrificing the taste flavor, right? Because we know as you increase the shelf life, you're going to compromise on flavor and taste. But today, what we're seeing and what we are hearing also from our customers is that is becoming something of importance. And going forward, it's really a priority for HM Clause. And I think what you will see going forward is there's going to be a lot of emphasis on consumer traits, flavor, going to be emphasis on the taste, because that's what the consumer asking today. In the past, has been primarily focusing on grower traits, thinking about, how well can you harvest the fruit, the shelf life, but that's starting to shift going forward. So I think what you should expect to see is more consumer-driven research.
But I think the question is more aimed at nutritional value per se. So can we have a higher lycopene tomato, for example, or a higher whatever iron spinach, or not just taste, is the nutritional value of is an effort on that?
That's an effort. It really depends on the market. So it's always we have to think about where is that needed. I think you'll see the example in other species, right? For example, golden rice, right? And it's primarily, again, there's a market for that. But today, what I want, maybe I'll mention is, it's something we think about. It's not something we have as the core in the breeding, but it's one of the elements that we then think about when we are bringing new varieties to the market. Yeah.
Okay. One question from my side is, how about vertical control environment production? Do you guys are playing in that arena too?
Yeah, so today I want to say it's something on a small scale, right? It's not our core business, but what we are starting to see, there's a lot of that's where the industry is starting to shift, where vertical we have to think about, we have varieties for that particular environment. So what we do then is through collaboration. We are doing that through collaboration. We are doing through that our sister BU. So we try to think about, who is really better positioned to be able to do that. If you think about our sister BU in Japan, where that is a big component, right? Vertical farming is big. That becomes then part of their core in terms of what you do. But for HM Close today, no.
Okay. All right. All right, Vincent. I think it's great to have you with us, and thank you so much for the presentation, for your time, and I hope you get more graduate students from NC State in the future. And
please,
also, I mean,
send me. We have opportunities. If you're interested in what we do, we have an internship in our group next summer. So feel free to reach out to me.
Yeah, any of that information, if you can send it to me, I can post it in our group, with our channels of communication. Okay. Thank you everybody for the attendance, and for those of you watching this seminar recorded, the link is going to be shared very soon with you. Thank you, Brandon and Anthony, for your help throughout the series. This is the last seminar of the series, so we're starting a new series in the spring. I will run through the months of March and April 2022, hopefully at the same time, but we'll see how things are shaping by then. If you would like to volunteer to present a talk, we already have some volunteers for next cycle, but if you want to volunteer, or somebody that could bring up a topic that is very relevant for the international breeding community, please bring it to my attention. I posted there the different ways that you can follow our plant breeding group here at NC State. I would love to hear from you. Thank you again, Vincent. Have a wonderful day, a wonderful week, and we'll stay in contact. Thank you everybody for participating. Okay.
Bye.
Bye now.